In the last episode, we saw Ryan and Maria discover and explore the clinical summary of the factors that have contributed to their infidelities. We saw them wrestle with, debate, converse, modify, and accept some of these unpleasant truths that have caused their affairs. In this episode, we will conclude that clinical summary and see how close it will get Ryan and Maria toward choosing a path of recovery. Let's take a look.
Ryan's past experience with grief or loss related to his father has impacted his ability to be there for Maria during the loss of her grandmother. This led to having to rely on Dustin for emotional support.
It's just not my dad. In general, it's been friends taking their lives. It's been close people. People that Maria's never met, that I couldn't make it back to funerals to be with their family. It's sudden losses that just shouldn't have happened. My cousin Cole. It's not just Dad. It's not just that.
It's multiple experiences
It's just
related to death.
It's just the experience, and it's just the reflection of. Yeah, my dad is a major thing. My dad's a big part of it, but it's a culmination of past experiences that just made it where I don't know how to handle it.
Grief of any kind is always a major event in a relationship, right? And as much as we'd like to think that, there would be no more losses, we cannot predict such thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that was instrumental in terms of not for you individually, right? To have a better relationship with death and losses, but also if it happens to your partner, and to what extent it's going to impact your guys' ability to grieve together, especially if it's a shared loss, and how to be there for one another if it's an individual loss.
She doesn't think I let him be there for me because I left. There wasn't anything for you to be there for because of the way I understand it.
Okay. I accept it.
And again, and if there's a misperception of how you dealt with it, it probably would be about, past events of, maybe, well, there's no maybe, because there is still the legitimate issue of, can I trust him with my grief? Can I trust him with my meltdown? Can I trust him when I'm not okay? Can I trust him being vulnerable, right? That problem still exists.
No, it does. And
right?
That's
That doesn't mean that everything that you do is interpreted in that filter. Does that make sense?
Right. And that's the only thing that I would
Yeah.
change is, in that statement, is it maybe his past experience with his dad impacted that, but it was more that I know that losing her tore him up a lot. Because those two were attached. She loved him. And he loved her. And he doesn't love easy. And he says, well, I've only ever told you and your mother, or you and my mother, that I love you. But he loved her. I know he did. Whether or not he'd admit it. And
She doesn't know this. So, the necklace that Grandma gave me. Do you know what else she was trying to give me that day? She handed it to me 3 times, told me to take it 3 times, and I told her no.
one of the knives.
No. She must have had one of Grandpa's wedding rings, or one of her Grandpa's wedding rings, in the box. Big ring. Big ring. Had something,
What box did it come on?
I don't remember. Same box that the necklace was on it.
This is a little red oval box.
Could have been.
For one, Dad has it.
Okay. She tried to give me that to me like 3 times in one day. The same day she gave me the necklace was the same day she tried to give it to me 3 times.
So you know what that
Yeah.
That was my grandpa's birthday.
I didn't take it. I didn't. Just.
Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
What?
That's how much she loved me. That's how much of an impact she thought I was gonna have on me.
How much do you love her?
Oh, I love the old bat. The thing that pissed me off, she never gave her coffee grinders to me.
They weren't hers.
I know.
So how much did you love her?
She meant the world to me. If I could take one thing back, it'd be go back and say I love her. Say it to her.
What was it like to lose her?
Crushing. You know how hard it is to, I don't know, to control yourself going away from a hospital. Knowing that a woman that you should have called grandma, you should have told her you love her. They gave you all the respect in the world. Was laying there in the deathbed. And you knew it, but you couldn't keep staying there. You couldn't keep her daughter, her granddaughter there that loved her to death. That you couldn't wait because you had to go. So you say your final goodbyes to a shell. So you say final goodbyes to a shell. And then the place that you know that she was wanting to be at. And you can't go and say final respects. Because you got a jerk for a boss and you just can't go. And somebody else is there with her. You're torn up in the first place. Heartbroken. I hate losing people.
What are you feeling right now?
Guilt. Guilt in the fact that I took Maria away from her before she was gone.
She was gone.
Guilt in the fact that I thought work was more important than going and being with Maria in Colorado.
Okay.
Guilt in the fact that I wasn't the one there with her. So like,
She was gone.
No.
And she went to sleep. The last time that we all talked to her. When we all said, "See you when you get over there." That was when she was gone.
Maria, what are you doing right now?
I'm trying to help him, but he's guilty over something that it's not relevant. It's not. So you said goodbye to her when she was in hospice, but she wasn't there. You said goodbye to her. You know you did. She was aware.
yeah.
So let me pause you here. You mentioned that you wish that you would have done things differently or would have said things, right? I know you mentioned that you're spiritual, and it depends on how people's belief system is, whether, what's their idea about afterlife and what happens, who knows. But if Grandma could hear you, and you have an opportunity to tell her the things that you didn't get a chance to say, what do you want to say to her?
Oh, Jesus. Who would say anything?
Well, here's your opportunity.
It'd be a hug. Fuck words. It'd just be a hug.
Well, here's a proxy for the hug, but other than the hug.
Love her. She meant the world to me. And that she's got one hellacious granddaughter that sucks as an artist.
Compared to her, yes, I do. She tried and tried and tried.
I wouldn't have said a word. Wouldn't need a word. She'd know. It's one thing that lady expected. Hug and a kiss on the cheek before you leave this house, Ryan. Yes, ma'am. And she got it every time. So one thing she didn't get from me when I left. She didn't get her hug and she didn't get her kiss on the cheek. So I had to get out.
Alright, Maria, you give him a break and take the lead on reading the next point.
Overwhelmed with life stressors and finding the balance between meeting individual needs while fulfilling obligations of a different role of a working professional wife and mother. Do you want me to read the point, or?
Yeah, do one more.
Maria is a hard worker and takes professional obligations very seriously. When she falls short behind, she becomes very critical of herself, which can lead to getting overwhelmed and checking out. The checking out paradoxically causes her to feel unproductive, which further escalates her anxiety. Yeah.
Agree, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Maria's job is very demanding and consistently constantly puts her in the position of being in charge due to the fact that many of her colleagues rely on her. Being in charge is also what Maria does at home, and this can be very taxing and draining when considering the submissive aspect of her personality.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Want to be in control all the time.
Next.
Maria seems to ascribe to the Wonder Woman myth. She believes that she can do it all without having to inconvenience others by asking for help. This myth is often validated in the rare occasions that she asks for help. She's told that she can do without it. Absolutely. That's a big struggle for me. And that is something that's one of my positive takeaways from Jason is I can ask for help and actually get help and not have to be the control freak and say I need this and this and this and this and this. I can ask for help and he can actually help me and he can settle me down, and it's not just about doing things, it's not asking for help with things, it's help me quiet the noise in my head. And just, he will literally sit there on the couch and he'll just sit there and rub my head and we can watch a stupid movie and just bring me out of the chaos in my head. And it's never been your fault when I ask you for help and you're asking others to help you help me, that they're unwilling and unable to do it.
Anything you want to say about that, Ryan? No. Okay. Accept?
Yeah. No, I don't. I accept that. I don't accept that there's nothing he wants to say.
Okay. Push back.
You have thoughts you're dodging. When I try and find that same quiet spot with you, it's, we need to go do this. And when I say, hey, I was just enjoying the quiet. Yeah, well.
Your response, right?
Nothing good.
Then don't worry about nothing good. Don't worry about filters. And I want to pause here. Somebody's asking questions. She's interesting to see your point of view. She may disagree with your point of view, right? But she's asking because she wants to know. Am I right or wrong on this part?
Yeah.
Okay. So don't worry about whether she's going to like or not like what she's going to hear. First step is to get it out, and then we can.
Well, look, Jason's back in the room. So,
Okay. But forget, erase Jason from the whole paragraph. How about this first part? Do you see how just the word Jason kind of, like put a blanket on all this other stuff that's behind it, the valuable stuff?
yeah.
Okay. So now take him out of it. Now I understand that you brought it. I understand you didn't bring it to rub salt in the wound or anything like that, right? And again, we can talk about it. What's the best way to because, I mean, yes, we have to be cautious and figure out what's the best way to do it without pushing unnecessary button. But there comes a point where there's so much navigation and tact and sugarcoating that you can do without stepping on a button. Follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can't talk to you about what I need to talk to you about if I can't talk to you.
So leaving Jason out of it. Say the same thing, but without Jason.
Sometimes it's just the quiet of sitting there, having some physical stimulus that helps me just decompress. I think I butchered that.
No, close. You got the main nuggets of it. Okay. How is this different for you?
Because it actually described her instead of another person. It described what she would need instead of another person.
Perfect. And it's interesting because when we take a step back from it, right? It's easy to say, okay, well, yeah, like there's like a really valid thing what she's saying, but I get stuck on, the context which was brought up, which is, well, Jason does this. Well, I can say, okay, well, maybe don't say, well, Jason does this, but we cannot tiptoe around the fact that she didn't know about that need, or that need was not fulfilled until Jason. So there's so much tiptoeing we can do around Jason, right? Without this being attached to it. And I think that kind of speaks to what she says. It's like, okay, forget about whether we're poly or not poly. That's on a separate track. It's an issue of a lot of the things that was missing from me, or the things that I discovered I need, came about that they have like a Jason label to them. And if I can't talk about them, does that mean I want to go back to square one and just not have these needs anymore because I can't talk about them? Ballpark?
Exactly.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. Okay, well, there got to be a way for us to talk about this with minimizing the Jason influence when we talk about that need and seeing it for what it is and keeping the two separate. Does that make sense, Ryan, or did I lose you?
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
I understand.
And what I want you to do is, again, always push back, right? I'm not saying go out of your way to create a conflict because when you're just saying, okay, and when it's actually not selling with you, right? I don't care how you worry about it sound, stick with it, because if they're going with it's not going to do you guys any good. Not only that, but you intuitively know, like, there is more that's not being said. Fair? It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, right? It's a different kind of dynamic, but we know that trying it this way, that the old way is not working, so let's try a new way. Okay.
You've got something else.
Why does Jason automatically invalidate me? It wasn't anything about what I needed and how that helped me. It was because I said his name and it invalidated everything. That's not fair.
He got drugged back in the room.
So let's take one question at a time. This is a mechanical communication, right? You ask a question and you're legitimately looking for an answer from him, right?
Yeah, that's the answer that I get.
Okay. So first, what did she ask you and what was the answer?
Why does it invalidate anything that I say? Why does Jason's name invalidate anything that she says?
What is the answer?
Because this isn't about Jason. This isn't about fixing you and Jason, because you guys are perfect apparently. It's about trying to fix us. And if we're going to be that imperfect,
You're right, it wasn't about Jason, it was about me.
Okay. But take that thought further, right? Right, within the context of we're trying to fix us.
why must he be back in this room?
Sure. There's a difference between, because remember, we're talking about this because we're trying to fix us, right?
Yeah.
And from your end, it's like, okay, well, we're trying to fix us, and the first thing that you're pulling out of your pocket is Jason. What she's saying is what? We're trying to fix us. I'm expressing the need that will help us fix us. The only reference point that I can bring up to illustrate this need is by Jason. Now, problem here is what? Is that how are that discovered? We already agreed that that wasn't the appropriate outlet for discoveries or meeting needs. Right?
And the thing is she's saying that Jason can draw this out of her. that Jason was part of the catalyst of drawing it out of her.
Which means?
That he's back in the room. That was
Okay.
part of the thing that I'm even understand is she says, well, I just need the quiet. Well, to her right now, the quiet equates to Jason. Well, Jason can settle me. Jason can do this.
But-
Jason can do that.
But that is her truth, right?
I guess.
No, there's no guessing. That she's saying, and again, because you're aware of how uncomfortable that's for you to say and how uncomfortable for him to hear, right? I don't think it's an issue of, what she's saying is risky to say, it's uncomfortable to say, it's uncomfortable to hear, right?
Yeah.
But that is her truth to me and you have every right to be uncomfortable of that truth, but that does not negate that this is her truth and what are we going to do about it. Do you see how it can get lost in that translation?
Yep.
Okay. Take home message about this last piece is what?
Don't say his name.
Okay. Yeah. Yes and no. Okay. So yes, it's important to say, to express the needs, but I'm saying there will be a point where there's just no way around it because the reference point is that and we cannot ignore that. Is that clear? Okay. What are you feeling when you're thinking right now?
My truth doesn't matter. Because it makes him uncomfortable. That's why I shut up in the first place.
And when
It's not my job to never make you uncomfortable. I didn't, and I haven't once brought him into this room. You're doing that, and you're trying to tell me that it's my fault that I'm doing that, and I didn't. This is about us. This is about me.
So I'll say this again because my vantage point is different. We cannot say Jason is not in the room in some shape or form. It's on my notes. Apparently Jason is here because Jason is part of the dynamic of everything that has been happening, right? I'm okay with that versus am I bringing him on purpose? Or if I'm bringing him on purpose, why am I bringing him here? And to me the key is what? Is one, I'm not trying to bring him on purpose, and if he is coming into the room or into this whole process, it's simply to illustrate my need. It's simply to illustrate my need for the sole purpose for you and me to figure out where we're going. Right? That. Would you accept that from me?
Okay, I'll accept it.
Perfect.
I can't tell you who I am and what I need if I'm not allowed to talk about myself.
Okay. Can we move on to the next one?
I'll read it. The submissive aspect of Maria's personality drives her to assertive and often lead to taking on more than she is able in the different roles she plays. This is further exacerbated.
No worries, I trip on that one. Exacerbated, yeah.
Exacerbated by her discomfort of saying no to others due to her fear of disappointing them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You want me to take another one, Maria? Give you a break?
Oh, very good. Maria identifies ADHD, OCD traits. Make fun of her for a second. CDO traits. That makes it challenging to complete the tasks associated with the role she plays in an efficient and timely manner.
Notice I said self-identify.
Yeah, I do.
That's you now. I'm not saying that.
No,
so.
I get that. You're not diagnosing me.
Alright.
I do. I see it.
Transparency is one of the many painful yet crucial ingredients needed for a successful recovery. It's what allows us to connect with our authentic self, despite its ugliness or beauty. Without it, our needs will remain unclarified, unexplored, and unfulfilled.
So, last piece.
A lack of emotional safety caused by the broken trust related to Ryan's dishonesty.
I agree.
Okay.
That was what just happened. That was a very good example of what just happened. It negated what I shared with you because I brought it in. And I was just trying to show you what and you pushed me away.
And one thing that I will say here is that if emotional safety is lacking at any point in time, we cannot have a relationship of any kind without emotional safety. It should not be something that accepted, tolerated. It should be something that is addressed and fixed. Whether he's contributing to it, you're contributing to it, I can tell you for sure that relationship with that leads to dissatisfaction. Joe, you know this already. But we have to make the commitments that we either have that or don't. And if we're not going to have it, then we can't have a relationship of any kind. Whether it's partners, co-parents, whatever label you want to put on it. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Next.
Not respecting Maria's boundaries of I'm not ready for or unable to be sexually intimate. Yeah.
Okay.
Maria gets frustrated and offended when Maria gets lost in her head during sexual intimacy, which often ends in leads in ending the sexual encounter instead of working through it. Yeah.
Accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. I know it was a big list. Anything missing from it?
No.
Nothing.
Okay. So, sometimes people see the list and they get overwhelmed and always say, well, you know, the whole point of doing this is that you're getting assistance, like take your car to the mechanic, so you're going to get a printout, right? so that doesn't mean that, you know, it's beyond fixing that. Helping it just saying, okay, well, I'm here to tell you what's not working, not what's working. If you do that, you know, I hope. So.
That's funny.
Surprised it's not bigger.
Okay. So good. So at least we're on the same page in terms of this is what's supposed to be there, right? And then, so the question, you know, because remember this is part of how do we figure out which direction we go. The question would be is, you know, do any of these things seems to be beyond fixing, impossible to fix, or not willing to sign up for? You know, you don't have to answer me now, but that's the question I want you to guys to kind of think about when we come back from lunch. The only one that I can see as a potential, you know, that like the core part here of where this is a struggle is that red part about the poly thing, and that's going to be the next thing we're going to do after our break. Fair? Okay. So think of this as your blueprint of the things that need to be fixed, regardless of what you do. Right? Because we're all saying that these are factors. These issues need to be addressed regardless of whether you stay in the relationship, whether you do individually, what kind of relationship that you're in. This is core issues that should have been fixed a long time ago. Would you guys accept that from me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's take lunch. How you feeling?
I don't think this is a decision that should be made right now, today, because you haven't tried to do the self-work that you need to do to get better. And I don't want to sit here and make a decision that's going to affect us for the rest of our lives, knowing that you can be better if you would just try. Because it's not my responsibility to never make you uncomfortable. And I can't not make you uncomfortable. But the way that you react to me and disregard what I said about myself and say that I drugged Jason into this when I didn't is not going to work for me.
What are you trying to convey to him right now?
I don't want to call it quits if he's not, because he's not capable, because I know he's capable. I don't want to make this decision right now before we do all the work.
Perfect. So I'll tell you what makes sense to address what you brought up, which is really important. On my end, right, I'm not expecting either of you to say do this or do that. What I'm hoping is give you some clarity and say, this is where we're at, this is what it looks like, these are the options ahead of us, right? There is nothing, like I said, these are important decisions, right? It's not like, well, do it now, right? It's really that these are the data, this is the process, this is the road ahead of us. And if we're going to say, okay, if somehow it leads to a decision, great. If it doesn't lead to a decision, that's fine, but at least you know the way to get there, right? This is really the data that you need to help you make a decision. Does that make sense? So that's on my end in terms of I'm not expecting you guys to say, well, today say yay or nay. That's your relationship, not mine. And it should be taken seriously. Readiness is important, is key. Because the two of you have wasted a lot of time and effort because of lack of clarity and not readiness, so it's important the next step it would be well thought out. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to add about? Ryan, or a question about this?
No.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Try again.
I gotta figure out how to be honest the first time, because I cannot.
Give him an opportunity. Because remember, this is the new type of interaction for the two of you.
I don't know.
No, the comment that you just made right there is pretty much said that you know what's coming. You know the direction you want to go.
Which is what? What did I say?
So what did you hear her say?
I just have a feeling that she doesn't think we're gonna work.
Okay. What is it about what she said then make you feel that?
Because she kind of implied that the decision, if it were made right now, that's kind of the way she's leaning, is that she doesn't think that I put the time and effort into it, and that she would be
Okay.
out of here.
I'll tell you the clear thing that I heard, and I'll trust Mario to keep me in check about that part. The part that was loud and clear for me is that any direction we take, right? Rebuilding together, individually, rebuilding together, monogamous or poly. If I can't have emotional safety, I'm going to struggle. Doesn't matter how much I want this, doesn't matter how much I want this guy, that's going to be key, essential for me to find any path and successfully take steps in it. Ballpark? Okay. So that's the clearest thing that I got in terms of as far as that part. That's one, right? Any reaction to that? Is that wrong word to say? Is that
No, it's not wrong.
it's valid to say, right?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure that there are probably going to be things on your end like, well, this is a must for me. If I don't have that, then I cannot go with you. And that's the goal, is really for you to be honest with yourself what you can and cannot do. And the same thing for her. Second part that I think hurt is I want to make sure that I am not compelled to make a decision that I'm ready to make. Right? I don't want to feel pressure that I have to like choose like right now, this minute, today, or like at the end of the retreat that you have to choose everything, got everything figured out, along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that unrealistic? Is that wrong?
It's fine.
Okay. No, not just fine.
It's okay. I understand it.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
That was my fear. That this has been so good for us. This is the help that we've needed to get. And I've seen you grow so much in the past 2 days. I can't keep going forward without the emotional safety. With you disregarding what I say. When I'm sharing something about you, about myself, which is what you tell me you want me to do.
Yeah. Now, Maria, talk more about your fear. That was my fear. That your fear is that he would stop growing. That his fear, your fear that.
That's been my fear the whole time, and I've said it repeatedly. I'm gonna lose. One way or another, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose something that's important to me. And I'm just trying to grow with you, trying to get through this.
So the best short response I can give is what? There is nothing magical about this place where, we come in for intensive therapies and to fix all our problems, right? To me, it's, first is, are we successful in helping the two of you choose a path? And also, if this list, these 3 pages, that's a lot of work. That's not just something we just recognize. That's work require individual therapy, putting those agreements into action. It's not impossible, right? But that's the route for everybody. Is not just generate those insights. Is that this is a lot of work. So I'm expecting the two of you, regardless of which design, which path you choose, is that you actually show that work by individual couples' work, as well as translating those into actions. And I don't think I'm going to get pushback from you, Ryan, about this.
No pushback.
So that's, if you needed to hear it, I'm saying it. Fair?
Yeah.
To me, it's the issue of, are we going to be able to find a path that works for the two of you? And what does that look like? Like I said, all I can do is kind of show you, like, this is the autopsy of what we dealt with. These are the factors, right? This is how we go about making that choice. And at the end of the day, it's going to be your guys' sole choice only. All I can do to tell you, okay, this would work, this would didn't work. But I will not influence you guys in any direction. It's not my place to do.
I know that. That wasn't. That's not my concern.
Yeah, I think I needed to say that for me, for my own. Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I need to say that for me. Fair, yes. You're right. That's not something that you said. Well, saying that for me. All right, take lunch, because the next part is going to be harder too. So. I'm sorry. I wish it was easier. I was still people like, yeah, the retreat is a misnomer. It's more of a boot camp.
Right. The point that I was trying to express is that look at how much good that we're doing because we've got the help, and give us the chance to get better. And quit taking the emotional safety from me that you're promising me, that you're giving me, and taking me away out of the conversation and invalidating what I'm telling you, because it happened. had something to do with Jason doesn't mean it's any less valid for me.
And like I said, yesterday with the disconnect here is the difference between, well, it's not only that anything is related to Jason is going to be a trigger, it's the way it is understood right now, because we didn't have that conclusion, is, not only that she wants me to accept those valid discoveries about herself through the source of Jason, but also she's wanting me to discover them so that Jason can be the picture. Like I said, the two of you talking about two different layers of the same thing. Does that make sense, Maria? Okay. Any comments about the last portion before we had a break?
Difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that this it's just hard to see.
Tell me more.
All of our problems laid out on 4 sheets of paper. That's a lot. Not as many as I thought, but it's a lot.
I am involved. I'm waiting for my phone to finish uploading. And I feel like if it turns off, it's going to stop.
Don't worry about it. How about you? How do you feel?
That the decision's going to be made for me no matter what. That I'm not going to be given the fair shot that I've given him. That's what's going through my head right now.
What do you know about that?
And it's the notes are nice. It's kind of an affirmation that an outside party that has no stake in us is seeing the same thing. And some of them stung a little bit, but it's for the better.
Oh, sure. Like I said, whatever truth we find is we can't afford to shy away from it. But at least, to me, this should be a physical representation that this is not a one-person issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can see that, there's individual and relationship factors, so we can no longer claim there's a good guy and bad guy in this situation.
Right.
There?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, remember we said, this was like one of the facets that people look at as far as the direction to go, is the what happened and the why. Outside of the red highlighted piece related to the poly, do any of these why seems to be impossible to fix or unwilling to try to fix? And the same thing for you?
No, none of them seem out of their own.
Okay. So in this case, if you put our findings from these three facets, right? One is about the relationship history. We said, the two of you in the category of both. We cannot say one more than the other, right? Had and lost it versus never had it, right? That's one finding. The second finding is the two of you did well and do the milestones based on your own standards and your experience. And 3 is, the what is not unforgivable and the why is not impossible to fix, minus this issue about the poly. So far so good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So putting all that data together, it leans toward possibly rebuilding the relationship as long as the poly part is not an issue. So it's the part where we have to duke out. Any question before we get there?
Nope.
Watching Ryan and Maria's openness, acceptance, and supportive stance toward one another during the discussion of some of the factors we talked about in this episode can give a glimpse of hope about the possibility for rebuilding the relationship. This hope disappears when we start talking about the factors in which Jason was used as an outlet for dealing with life stressors and emotional safety. The hope disappears because the discussion of these factors set the stage for having to make a decision about the best way to fulfill these needs from this point forward, i.e., within the confines of monogamy with Ryan, or poly with Jason and possibly others. Now keep in mind that a primary factor of infidelity that was highlighted in the discussion or in the list that we went over was the lack of clarity regarding Maria's poly identity, which was strategically tabled for standalone discussion. This was done for two reasons. One is to help Ryan and Maria shift the focus to the actual causes of infidelity rather than being fixated on the opposing views about poly. Two, to help Maria see the possibility that her feelings about poly are related to individual and relationship deficits that have the potential to be fixed rather than actual orientation or a fixed identity that will persist despite overcoming those deficits. In other words, help determine if her poly tendencies are authentic or reactionary to actual deficits. I want you to keep these observations in mind as we get closer to helping Ryan and Maria explore the impact of her poly dilemma on their ability to choose a path. Until then, be well, be safe, and embrace the possibility for a brighter future.